Welcome to Betting Bananas with your hosts, the ruthless Elle Wagman, Ryan the Corner Man Quinn, and Dave Van Auken.
What's up, guys? Betting Bananas UFC Vegas 64. You can see we have no Elle Wagman. She is
no, Elle, you look a little different tonight.
Yeah, Elle looks a little different. You know, she's in Nashville, bachelorette party. Her significant other's in Vegas. Grant Dawson's fighting. But guys, tonight we have to my left the cornerman, Ryan Quinn. Ryan, how you doing, my man?
Fantastic. Looking forward to breaking the night down.
Me too. And underneath, kind of taking Elle's spot. I like this. We got our guy Paul from the MMA Shark, a trusty MMA handicapper. I can't even push him over enough. Everyone should be signing up right now at the MMAshark.com. Paul, how you doing, my man?
Good, man. Nice talking to you, David. Seeing you again, Cornerman. Excited to be here for Betting Bananas tonight and break down what is, in my opinion, a really good-looking card that's getting overlooked.
A lot of these fight nights get overlooked. We talk about it all the time, especially if the main event isn't very attractive. And the main event is under the radar, especially to the casual fan. But there's 3 to 4 fights on here that are to really high level. The co-main event was awesome. Of course, we have our guy Grant Dawson on the card. So a lot of stuff to get into. Here we do our best bet on the card. We do our underdog, and we always do our 3-5 parlay. Last week, the quarterman was on fire. Khalil Roundtree on the underdog, best bets, 3-5 parlay. You're everywhere, Ryan, just nailing stuff.
Yeah, I just put my head to the ground and throw some grass in the sky and see where the wind blows. You know.
There we go.
Yeah, you should have just given the Khalil Roundtree ticket back, though. That's theft. That's
crazy.
That's
investment.
All right, let's start it. Let's go with it. What's best bet on the board? You can bet anything you want, under, over, favorite, underdog, anything you want. What is your best bet on the board, Ryan?
I'm starting right at the top, and I try not to do this, but I can't get my eyes off the main event. Mariana Rodriguez over Amanda Lemos. The key of this fight is leg kicks. Just the way Amanda could be fairly aggressive and the way that Marina mixes up with her striking, I think that's just going to chop her down. And over 5 rounds, she's just going to – I feel like I don't know. Amanda's pretty tough, so calling the knockout, I'm not going there. But I think I'll lock Marina Rodriguez all night.
Okay. All right. I like that as well. You know how I feel. I'm a huge Marina Rodriguez fan. And I saw a post today. There's been the last 14 female main events. 13 of them went to the judges' scorecard. 13 went all 5 rounds. 1 went to a stoppage, and it was actually Lemos who tapped out to Jessica Andrade in the first round 6-7 months ago. Marina's on a tear. I think she has been 1 fight away for a little bit, and I think this fight in the main event gets her the title shot. I think that juice on this fight is really good. And you know how I feel, Paul, we talked about this on air and off air. Anytime I like a spot where just, she's at minus 210, 215. I saw it on Pack 22 just before we got on. I think it's actually minus 220 right now. She is climbing.
Yeah.
If you like her, just bet her. Just bet her straight. Don't get too tempted. Don't, you can get juice in other spots. If you really like Marina, I like betting her just straight right now, 220. I think, Paul, I would love your take on this. I think she will probably go down on Saturday as a minus 250, even to a 260, 270 favorite. Do you agree?
To an extent, I agree. But
Okay.
At the same token, the fact that she didn't open up where she should at minus 300 makes me think that there is some money coming in on Amanda on this fight.
Okay.
On paper all day, it should be Rodriguez minus 300. So it's only juice if you lose. I'm not content releasing a play on it yet, but I like the way you guys are leading on it for sure.
All right, there we go. Ryan, underdog time. There's a ton of underdogs I like on this card. I saw a little 3 to 4 right before we got on. Ryan, what is your underdog play for UFC Vegas 64?
I was the other way. I felt the underdogs were I couldn't really lay down some good confidence on any underdog in this card except for Polyana Viana. I just feel that Jin Yu Frey, she's notable for using her range and her size. Cannot really do that with Polyana. Polyana's pretty big herself. pretty gritty. You know, I know that she's had some up and downs since she had that spat, you know, in the streets a couple years ago. But I think that's the underdog play to play this week because she's got good ground game. She could smother against the fence for 15 minutes as well.
Okay, let me throw out one underdog, and then maybe let's hit on that co-main event because I think that's a very trendy underdog play right now to the people. Guys, Chase Sherman's a betting favorite. Like, it's 2022, and Chase Sherman's a betting favorite. Guys, what do you think about that? I know Parisian is not a high-level name. I know he's probably not even a high-level heavyweight, but a heavyweight fight as a dog, like, I kind of like that. Do you guys see that a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to stay away from it. In fact, when I saw that, staying away from it, I ran away from my laptop. I was like, "There's something about this. It's not. There's something a little kosher about this right now." So that's why I broke it down. I went down a notch to Pollyanna.
Okay, Paul, what do you
my take with Chase Sherman is the fights he's supposed to get beat up in, he gets beat up in, and the fights that are close on paper are exactly that. And he's got a really solid gas tank for a heavyweight. And on the feet, he could take a lot of punishment. So, you know, we saw when he fought Romanov what happened on the ground immediately. Right. But take his last fight versus Jared Van Der Arena was killing him in that fight. And Jared is 0-5 his last 5 fights. And, you know, he took so much of a beating that Chase still had some power and cardio left in him. And I think it was the 3rd round finish with maybe 2 minutes left in the fight. So Chase has a lot of bare knuckle boxing experience, some regular boxing experience. It's his 27th MMA fight. I do think him being constituted as the favorite makes sense in this fight.
Okay, I got it. There you go.
I'm not saying I'm putting him out. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything to lay there, but I think the odds are kind of right where they should be on this fight. And it's one of those that probably is not going to go the distance, in my opinion. And a lot of these low-level heavyweight fights do go to the distance because they get tired. I see a knockout coming one way or another in this fight.
I like it. That's why you are the handicapper, and I just talk for a living. Let's hit that co-main event, guys. I like Daniel Rodriguez. I just like the momentum of his career right now. The winning streak. I know he won the last fight on paper, but lost to a lot of people. A split decision, but I'm really high on Lee. So I think even a split decision loss or even a 2-1 loss, I still thought D-Rod did look well in that fight. I thought he looked good. Neil Magny has been one of these underrated guys for over a decade in the UFC. He wins fights he shouldn't. He wins fights I don't think the casual thinks he should win. A ton of welterweight wins. But let me just I just think, are we getting to that scale now that he's 35 years old and he's kind of went through all those fights and all these wars? So now that he's maybe the casual thinks he's underrated, I think it's time that it flips. I think he's maybe a tad overrated, and the betting lines, I like D-Rod's. I think the projection and the ascension of D-Rod is going the opposite way for Neil Magny. But that's my take. That's my 2 cents. Where are you guys on that co-main event? Should be a really good fight.
I like Magny in that.
Okay.
I don't know how much more Magny has left in the tank to see when he was really winning and really winning those fights. But I think he has Saturday night in the tank. I think that there will be a lot given to him as far as the way D-Rod looked in his last fight. I didn't see a whole lot of athleticism, for a better word. Like with the Neil Magny, with the ranges and like even with taking down against the fence, he just doesn't give it up. And the way D-Rod fought in his last fight, I feel like he's going to have to eat 2 or 3 punches to score one. And Neil's going to be able to pummel out and just score and just win. For lack of a better word, win an old man's fight. Just score and move. Yeah. He's going to be able to do that. Choose some clock against the fence. Tire him out. I just like Neil Magny a lot in this fight, even with the momentum of D-Rod.
Touche. Paul, which way are you leaning? Which way? Or did you like my...
And I'm going to use the word like very loosely. I like Neil Magny in this fight. Okay. Daniel Rodriguez had just fought. He did not look impressive in that fight. He was supposed to fight back on October 15th and had to pull out due to staph in his elbow. So coming off a quick turnaround at UFC 280, staph infection in the elbow. No one's training with him with staph infection in his elbow. So that shortened this camp to probably 2 weeks. He cuts a lot of weight. But at the end of the day, this is probably going to the scorecards. And fights that are going to the scorecards for the moment after 2 awful beats 2 weeks in a row I'm staying away from. So in the slightest of ways, I do think Neil Magny brings the old tools to this fight, the movement to this fight, and the clinch control, and does enough to win this fight. But it's not something I'm throwing 4 or 5 units on.
It's going to be interesting. You just brought up something the last 2 weeks, so this got pushed back. I'm really interested to hear throughout the next few days how he did train during that time. Because really, your last week of fight camp, you're not doing anything but shadow boxing and hitting pads.
Exactly, cutting weight.
So really, he only cut out a week of training, so to speak. But how did he do it? If he sat in a sauna for 2 weeks, then I'm not feeling that. But
and that's a big thing with this fight. Daniel Rodriguez went a year without a fight, and now he's trying to fight in back-to-back months. Had the staff, didn't train, didn't look impressive last fight. So for that reason and more, I do favor Neil Magny in this fight.
Great point. I like it. All right. 3 fight parlays. This is like Elle Wagman's, bread and butter. I can't believe how much she hits. She hits I think 2 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 over the last.
Did you see my Bellator 3-leg parlay last weekend?
No,
I did. It doesn't ring a bell, but I did.
Okay.
Throw it at us real quick.
Well, the card was 10-1. I totally just annihilated the Bellator Milan card. But I had a 3-leg parlay, and the last leg of it was Mansour in the main event, and he was losing the first round and then just took over and dominated and got the finish. So 3-leg parlays could be great or they could be the devil, but that one absolutely worked out well. Did someone just chime in and say don't trust the judges?
Yep. They did. Christopher Thompson, Sharks don't.
It's his birthday. Today's Chris's birthday.
There you go. Happy birthday. Shout out, Chris. There you go.
He's actually coming to Orlando with us.
December 3rd. We'll get there. I cannot wait for that card. Just a tad over a month away. UFC 281 is next week. We'll definitely chime on that. You saying, all right, 3 fight parlay, Ryan Quinn. Give it to us. Where are you looking?
Okay, well, we just hit on the Neil Magny fight pretty well. I don't got to go over that, but I like Neil Magny.
Okay.
I like him by decision. So that I didn't say that before. I like him by decision. Gonna stick with the main event as well. I cannot commit to a finish though because it's because it's a 5-round fight, or even if just because I could see the way Amanda comes forward, those legs getting chopped down, and maybe she can't get up off the stool in round 3 or 4, going to round 3 or 4. But I just can't commit to it. So I'm just saying with Marina Rodriguez, and then I got Grant Dawson over Mark Madsen. I think that a lot of people, when they think of both of these fighters, they think of the wrestling. Now, I think that, yes, the wrestling will be a wash. That being said, I think that Grant has more tools outside of the wrestling with the striking specifically. I don't give fighters crap about their age when I'm placing bets. However, this is a little different. Mark Madsen, Olympic wrestler for, I believe it was Denmark. He got into the sport a little bit later, so that forced him to be a specialty fighter, so to speak. So he's not going to really you're not going to see him put on a striking show against the Grant Dawson. And that's why I think that's going to be his Achilles heel in this fight is he's going to be running into jabs. He's working with Mike Brown, Steve Mako, both know how to train the discipline throughout the 15 minutes. And I just really like that fight for Grant right now.
I do as well. We'll get into Grant. Christopher said, thanks, guys. Hell yeah. So shout out there, Chris. Happy birthday. All right, you mentioned Grant Dawson. Let's talk about it. It's our guy, Elle Wagman's fiance. They're going to get married in 2 weeks. We're a huge Grant Dawson guy. Just had him on the podcast. Great show with Grant. We talked about Star Wars, Ryan, for 7 minutes. You'll love it at the end. All right, so Grant's a minus 220 right now. I just saw on pack22.com. I love Grant Dawson here as well. Just not inside information. I don't think this is anything. Grant had this date circled for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. He was told that the UFC was working on getting him someone to fight on this date. So he's been in camp. He's been at an American Top Team. He's training with Thiago. He's training with Poirier. He's training with the top guys in the world, getting ready for this date. Also, too, to throw it out there, and no slight to Madsen. I know Madsen's undefeated. He's undefeated in the UFC, so you do have to give credit where credit's due. The names that Grant Dawson was getting tossed at and was getting talked about are better all-around fighters and just straight-out better fighters than Marco Madsen. Like guys like Gregor Gillespie, RDA was talked about. There, like top 7, top 12 lightweights on this world was talked about against Grant. And I just think it's a good I don't think Grant needs to worry about striking. I think he is the better striker, so he almost doesn't have to worry about it. So if you think Madsen's he's got the silver medalist and the wrestler, I think Grant can put all of his effort into it and be fine there. Last but definitely not least, Grant Dawson's a finisher. His 4 of his last 5 wins are all been finishes. He finishes fights. Mark Madsen doesn't really finish fights anymore, and it seems like the same thing. Here's my Neil Magny D-Rod thing, and you guys did flip me on that fight, by the way. Right now, I think I would go Neil Magny. I think Grant, 28 years old, is like this in his career, and Mark Madsen, hate to say this because he's undefeated, never lost. I just think his projections going the other way. I love me some Grant Dawson in this fight. Paul?
Makes sense. It totally makes sense. I'm actually 0-2 on Marco Madsen fights. I had Clay Guida with utter confidence last time they fought.
Right.
And I kind of think Clay won that fight, but that's here nor there. I keep fading the guy and I keep losing. I'm 0-2 on him. So I also thought Vink from Hell Pichel beat him. He came on real strong.
Fight, really close fight.
Very close fight. Very good fight.
Yeah.
And he didn't really use his wrestling in that fight. So if he's going to try to stand and trade shots with Grant Dawson, he's going to sleep. There's no doubt about it. He as far as wrestling being on the same level, I think Madsen's definitely got the wrestling advantage. But I also think Dawson has the jiu-jitsu and the power advantage. So
right.
I think Grant's better everywhere in that fight. And again, it's a fight I'm worried if it goes to the judges. If Mark lands 1 or 2 huge takedowns, like body slam takedowns where he's got his opponent, where he's got Grant in the air, are they going to score that round for him? Because he's certainly capable of doing it.
Great point. And great points right there, Paul. Couple things I love on the opposite side, just kind of talking it through and hearing both of you guys say it, is I like Grant, even if he lost the first round to Madsen, even if he lost round 1 and 2, and also Madsen, you would think his tank would be forever. Both third rounds of those fights, like he was kind of shady or kind of slowing down. I think Grant could finish him in the third round if he really needs to. And I don't think Madsen has that in his arsenal in the third round. Like Madsen's not finishing Grant in the third round. No. That's just my 2 cents. And lastly, if Madsen is on these 55-45s with Clay Guida at his age and Pichel right now, Dawson is stopping guys. Like Jarrett Gordon to me is a very good bet. He's stopping guys. He's finishing them. I like Grant a lot. He's minus 220. I love him part of the parlay. That parlay is money to me right there, Paul. You got Neil Magny, unanimous decision. You got Marino Rodriguez, and you got Grant Dawson with the win. Ryan, I'm loving that, brother. Loving it.
Solid parlay. There's not much to hate on that.
Well, I'll make you a little more confident on Grant here. When I mean that the wrestling's a wash, I mean like the mixed martial arts wrestling. I know that's
yes.
Now you got to remember freestyle and Greco. When the fight goes to the ground, you're training to try and gut wrench, as opposed to mixed martial arts or American wrestling, where you're working that stand up. And that's where American Top Team excels, is they really know how to bounce back up and get to your feet. It's going to be hard, even if he lands those takedowns. It's going to be hard to keep chasing Grant and hand fighting like that. And on top of it, I just really do feel that as far as the striking to wrestling transitioning, Grant does have the advantage there with the boxing to wrestling setups to get Madsen to cover up. So that's why I felt it was a wash, not really silver medalist.
Right.
Well, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
MMA wrestling, it's a wash.
All right, there we go. So best bet Marina, underdog Vivian, 3-5 parlay Neil, Marina, and Grant Dawson. Love it. One last thing, guys. I don't want to go into UFC 281. It's a big week next week. We'll super go into that a lot. Multiple shows next week, multiple lives, a lot of stuff on it. I do want to say one thing. I want to kind of see what I have an idea or just a theory or just something I want to say about what we saw just this past weekend, UFC Vegas 33, in that main event with Calvin Kattar and Arnold Allen, right? So Calvin Kattar gets hurt in this fight. Brian Ortega, we saw, got hurt against Yair. These injuries, and we saw TJ get hurt against Dillashaw, against Sterling, if you want to say that. I don't think the winners, we saw Aspinall did this to Curtis. I don't think the winners get enough credit. I don't think Curtis, Yair, and Arnold Allen gets enough credit. Calvin was trying to do an offensive, a spectacular move. Arnold did what he needed to do. I know it sounds just kind of easy, but sometimes, throw a Hail Mary in football. PJ Walker, DJ Moore, it's kind of easy. It's like he moved out of the way. Like he did the move to get out of the way, and then Calvin got hurt. Then also, too, Calvin just tried to go into that second round. Arnold did the perfect thing, did the kick to the other leg, so Calvin moved back. There it went. I don't think these guys, Curtis Blades, checked the crap out of Aspinall. Maybe he was hurt going into the fight, maybe not. I don't think when people win the fight inside the cage and someone gets hurt, the winner, I don't think gets enough credit. That's my 2 cents. Ryan, I'll let you run with it first.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you because people got to keep in mind that, I mean, they're happy they win. Ultimately, you don't see yourself winning that way either. Forcing but then again, I'm thinking right now of Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva, where Chris was checking kicks left and right in the first round and then the leg shattered. So that's all part of the game plan. It is your fault, but it's not your fault that the opponent didn't fix his strategy in order to not get hurt. So, I agree with you. They don't get it's all part of taking weapons away is part of this game as well.
Right.
There's offensive and defensive. I'm trying to think of an example. I remember one fight I trained, I had a good catch then right hand because I know the guy had a good liver kick. Eventually I just took that liver kick away because I was being counteroffensive with it. He didn't get hurt, but this is part of that is to take weapons away so we could pounce. So no, I don't think that they get enough credit either.
How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, the fighter does not want to win that way. Like Curtis Blades, for example, he was not happy winning that way, but he won the fight, And from my point of view, it absolutely sucks because 4 main event injuries this year happened, and I was on the wrong side of all 4. And I'm pretty confident I would have won 3 of the 4. So when Alexander Rakic tore his ACL, his knee busted out, we were on him in that fight. He was cruising in that fight over Jan Blachowicz, totally cruising in the fight. Brian Ortega, when his shoulder got dislocated versus Yair, I had Ortega in that fight. I had him in 5 parlays. It was the perfect night. And then that happened. Aspinall, obviously, I give Blades more credit for that because he did. He checked it. You know, he took that away. And that's a legitimate TKO win for Curtis Blades in that fight. And again, I was on Calvin last week. It seemed like a lot of the sharps were on Calvin.
Yeah, I was too.
But a lot of sharps were also on Olives 2 weeks ago. So it just cut away from a little bit of our profit from the Islam Makhachev fight. And, it happens. So it's a big picture thing over at the MMA Shark. October was near flawless, and then Saturday happened. But, I left the month up 31 units, so I have nothing to hang my head down over. You saw every play all month, I
know. I keep on saying it. And one thing I love of what Paul does on the betting is you will text people in the morning, afternoon, mid-card, towards the end of the card. If you're feeling like we say this, cards have feels and ebb and flows. And sometimes cards are just squash cards. And sometimes cards are just every fight's a decision. And you do wow, this is going to be one of those nights. So sometimes you have the feel and you pounce on it. Guys, trust me, sign up right now. Go to the MMAshark.com. We have a huge promo code going on. We have so many promos. It's worth every penny. Like you said, if you just bet that what you're worth on 1 month, you get it back on the first fight, and the rest is gravy. Ryan, my man, I saw a ton of content coming out your way. Didn't you just drop a video about the greatest female of all time? Did I just see that?
I did. I saw that Chris Cyborg, she had her opinion as to why she's the greatest of all time.
Yep.
And I gave my take as to why Amanda's the greatest of all time. And I think I'm right. So check it out. Cornerman MMA on the Cornerman_MMA YouTube page.
Definitely.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. When you're a rookie, you can argue and say, hey, I should be starting. But when you're in that argument, and she is in the argument of the greatest female of all time, you can't argue for yourself. I'm sorry. Cyborg, you're too high to argue for yourself that you're the greatest. And let's just be honest. They fought and kind of almost in the prime of their careers, and you got squashed.
I was going to say, the tiebreaker happened.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's over. All right, guys, we are out. UFC Vegas 64 in the books this Saturday, ESPN Plus. The next week, UFC 281. It's going to be absolutely bananas. A huge card. The prelims are insane. That main event, we could have a dog barking in that main event, guys. A lot of momentum on the Piera side. Mm-hmm. We will see. To my man, the cornerman, Ryan Quinn, Paul, MMA Shark. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right. Thanks, Em.